No new taxes. Jamaicans will be spared from paying new taxes in the 2018-2019 financial year. Good evening and welcome to Primetime News on air and online at onespotmedia.com. I'm Archibald Gordon.
And I'm Lorraine Samuels. Also this evening, it's over. Embattled Moravian pastor to serve 8 years in prison.
Caught man who held up 90-year-old woman and her 70-year-old son in police custody.
Zozo for environment. Government to get tough on environmental breaches.
Still living in fear. We revisit one of the scenes of the 2006 sextuplet murder in St. Thomas.
And in business news, passing grade. Finance Minister reports favorable response on the IMF program.
There's also sports commentary and weather in the primetime package. But before the break, the feedback question.
What are your views on the Finance Minister's budget presentation?
Share comments online, facebook.com/television Jamaica and tweet at Television Jam.
Please stay with us. Primetime News returns after this break.
Welcome back to Primetime News.
Special welcome to folks on onespotmedia.com.
First up this evening, the Finance Minister Audley Shaw today kept his promise and spared Jamaicans from paying new taxes in the 2018-2019 financial year.
Mr. Shaw, who opened the budget debate in Parliament today, announced that there will be no revenue measures for the new fiscal year, which begins on April 1.
TVJ's Andrea Chisholm was in Gordon House today and now joins us live. Andrea?
Thank you very much, Archibald and Doreen. Well, today the Finance Minister spoke for a little over 2 hours and he told Parliament today that for the first time in 14 years, there will be some relief for Jamaicans. Let's listen.
There will be no revenue measures for fiscal year 2018-19. No new taxes. No new taxes. No new taxes.
Finance Minister Audley Shaw there delivering on a promise he made as he opened the 2018-2019 budget debate in fine style. So how will the over $773 billion budget be funded? Well, $590.6 billion will come from revenues and grants. Government will borrow about $103.2 billion and non-tax revenues amount to $60.9 billion. Now, the non-tax revenues includes money from the Customs Administration fees, transfers from the Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority and the Tourism Enhancement Fund and the Chase Fund, as well as a special transfer from the Petro-Caribe Development Fund. Now, to another issue that has been dominating headlines, that's the issue of public sector wages. That also formed part of the Finance Minister's budget presentation. Mr. Shaw says that when the 16% increase over 4 years, that's a proposal for the 2017 period going on to the 4 years, when that is added to the payment of performance-based increments, the overall increase to the public sector is 26%.
Here it is. The teachers are being offered over 4 years, 26% increase, plus the 10% from the income tax threshold. That is 26 plus 10 is 36% increase over the 4-year period. And for the monthly paid civil servants, the increase in the PAYE threshold resulted in an average 14% increase in net pay average. Add the 14% to the 26% and you get 40% increase, Mr. Speaker.
Now, another issue that was mentioned in the budget debate was that of the high bank fees. You will recall that earlier this year, the government used its majority to shut down changes to the Banking Services Act that were proposed by opposition Member of Parliament Fitz Jackson. And subsequent to that, there was a newspaper advertisement publishing the faces of the government MPs that did not agree with the proposed changes. Today, the Finance Minister responded to that.
There are some vocal critics against bank fees today who had the opportunity to take action in the past. And when they were in a position to pass legislation, failed to address this banking issue. There's a big difference between maliciously publishing the photograph of members in the newspaper on the one hand, And on the other hand, the difference is taking serious, thoughtful and deliberate action to promote competition while protecting consumers on the other hand. That is what this government is doing. We are action and not a bag of mouth.
And Minister Shaw reiterated that the Bank of Jamaica will be taking a comprehensive approach to the matter, and this is one of the proposals that will be enacted.
If fees and charges are too high at one bank, then it should be easy to move your deposit accounts to the bank that is charging reasonable rates. However, more has to be done to make switching deposit accounts between banks easy and hassle-free.
And of course, we look forward to the developments surrounding that with the high bank fees. Doreen, it's back to you.
Thank you, Andrea. Fresh on the heels of his electoral win in Northwest St Andrew this week, Dr. Nigel Clark was sworn in as Member of Parliament for the constituency. He was sworn in during this afternoon's sitting of the House of Representatives.
I, Nigel Andrew Lincoln Clark, do swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Jamaica, that I will uphold and defend the Constitution and laws of Jamaica, and that I will conscientiously and impartially discharge my responsibilities to the people of God, to the people of Jamaica. So help me God.
There are more reactions this evening to the RGR Gleaner Group Don Anderson polls on the performance of the government and the opposition 2 years since the February 2016 general election. The young professional affiliate of the ruling Jamaica Labour Party Generation 2000 and the People's National Party PNP Patriots had different views on the polls. They were speaking on TVJ's current affairs program All Angles last night. TVJ's Giovanni Dennis has more in this report.
This is how both political parties compared in the latest RGR Gleaner Don Anderson poll. This is how both leaders stack up against each other. Omar Newell, president of the PNP Patriots, says the party needs to better engage the public. He explains that the PNP is on the cusp of unleashing strategies that it has been formulating in recent times.
Over the next few months, you will see an implementation of that strategy. And I would say watch out for the budget presentation. That should be a watershed.
He said persons should give the opposition time to settle and defended the leader, Dr. Peter Phillips, saying he needs time since he has been in the post for less than a year. But international human rights lawyer Jodian Quarry questioned the time it is taking the PNP and its leader to find solid footing.
Is that 2 years of settling? Because it's 2 years of you saying you've abdicated your responsibility to hold the government accountable.
No, but Peter Phillips has been president of the PNP for under a year.
Yes, but he is now party leader, so no matter who was in charge before him, he certainly must be accountable to the people of Jamaica now as opposition leader.
For president of Generation 2000, Stephen Edwards, the PNP does have a message, but it is not resonating.
Nothing constructive comes out of the party. And I think that is what is resonating with the people right now in a negative way.
In relation to the government, he argued that the polls demonstrate what he described as an impressive performance compared to previous administrations and reasoned that the party will fulfill all promises made 2 years ago. But another attorney and political analyst, Daniel Archer, argued that with the public relations machinery behind the government and the Prime Minister, the poll results are not good.
When you're looking at policies and you're looking at their image, 33% is, to me, a disappointment given the marketing campaign that they have. That's just my opinion.
Ms. Quarry, however, posited that the social media presence is connecting the government with people and making the government appear open and transparent. But she argued there's a danger with that because performance assessments are now being based on effective social media marketing.
The government, the Prime Minister, when he came into office, had promised us some criteria, some decision that would have allowed us to look at ministers' performance and say whether they're allowing us to determine, having a conversation now, having objective criteria to look at. We don't have that. So when we say we like a minister, when Christopher is the best performing minister, because he's a very, as Daniel said, public campaign. Yes. When Fitzjackson is seen to be a very effective opposition spokesperson, it's because at this time he's a very effective campaign.
Giovanni Dennis, TVJ News.
The Moravian pastor implicated in a December 2016 sex scandal in St. Elizabeth was sentenced today. Rupert Clark will spend 8 years behind bars for sexual-related offences. TVJ's Janella Precious reports.
A handful of family members of the embattled Moravian pastor Rupert Clark gathered outside the St. Elizabeth Circuit Court Thursday afternoon. At the back entrance of the courthouse, he emerged in handcuffs. Mr. Clark received a reduced sentence after pleading guilty to 2 counts of having sexual intercourse with a minor in November last year. He was sentenced to 8 years on each count. However, they will run concurrently. In December 2016, he was reportedly seen in a compromising position with a 15-year-old girl in a car on a minor road off the Austin Main Road in St. Elizabeth. The second count is in relation to a 13-year-old girl who is the sibling of the 15-year-old. We sought reactions from his legal team, but we were told no comment. Janella Precious, TVJ News.
2 senior citizens in Middle Quarter St. Elizabeth were tied up at their home and robbed at gunpoint this morning. The brazen daylight robbery attempt has left community members shaken but thankful, as in what may be considered a stroke of luck, a police team was on spot to stop the perpetrator in his tracks. TVJ's Herman Green has that story.
Look money. Gold. And when the gold we got here, I didn't have me married bridge, let it off my finger.
A 90-year-old senior citizen recounts the terrifying ordeal as a gunman barged into her premises, held her at gunpoint, and robbed her and her household of valuables. She lives with her 70-year-old son in a usually quiet section of Middle Quarters in St. Elizabeth. The woman explained that on Thursday they were in this room when the gunman barged in. He pointed a gun in their faces and demanded all their valuables. After the robbery, he reportedly fired several shots, an unusual sound in this area.
I saw pick to hockey. After one shot, I saw me hear some gunshot lick bottom side down the road. And when me listen, me like 2 of the bullet go through the tree top up there, so I duck and I say, what go on, man? And me I look for see somebody run come my way, but me look, me not see nobody, so me get up back, you know. And when I realize I don't on the road, so there's a robbery in progress, you know.
Almost every day I do this, sir. Only if you know, look while I get a call, say, you know, there you gunshot over there, when me come there now, this we come see.
The residents made an alarm as the gunman tried to make his escape. A team of police officers from the detention courts unit, who just happened to be driving by, reportedly saw the man running from the house to this would-be getaway car with a gun in his hand. They gave chase.
These are policemen from out of town. However, they responded as expected to the call of the citizens, and as a result, they apprehended one man and firearm was taken from him. That man is now in our police custody.
Let's say him get serious.
Him alone?
We don't know, just him alone, we're not sure.
The residents say the community has been tense in the wake of the state of emergency in St. James, as a restriction has been put on social events in their area. They're glad the robber was caught.
Yeah, man, that's a good sign, you know? Yeah, man, so who else, I think all of them can come in and so. Yeah, man, watch out, you know?
I know that the boy should have share up in the road there. I swear to God, man.
Herman Green, TVJ News.
A top story this evening, no new taxes. Jamaicans will be spared from paying new taxes in the 2018-2019 financial year. And still ahead, still living in fear, we revisit one of the scenes of the 2006 sextuple murder in St. Thomas. And in business news, passing grade, Finance Minister reports favourable performance under the IMF programme. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Continuing the news, stricter measures will be put in place to deal with persons who continue to burn garbage in and around the Riverton City landfill. This follows numerous complaints from residents and businesses in the area that continue to experience worsened air pollution as a result of the facility. More from Gillian Pearson.
A zozo for the environment. That's what Minister with responsibility for the environment, Darrell Vaz, says he will be waging on persons who continue to reduce the air quality in Kingston with incessant burning. Toxic fumes covered sections of Kingston on Wednesday morning, forcing one school to close its doors. The reason? Residents of the Riverton community burning tires and other debris to extract metal for the scrap metal trade. Mr. Vaz says he will be teaming up with the police and military to solve the issue of Riverton once and for all.
I am minister responsible for the environment representing the Prime Minister, and I'm sure my colleagues here would agree that the same emphasis that we have put in dealing with the zozos, yes, if you want to call this a zozo for the environment and the people of Riverton City, well, so may it be. And I am prepared to lead that member of parliament with you from the front. We are not going to allow a few people to hold an entire community and by extension the country to ransom with this unprecedented and unacceptable level of air pollution.
Senior Superintendent of Police in charge of operations, Calvin Allen, says he and his team are ready to support enforcement relating to environmental breaches in the Riverton community.
Where I sit representing the JCF and my colleague Colonel Price, whatever time frame or timeline you have to start immediate actions, then we will have to find the necessary resources to support that sort of enforcement. So in short, we remain committed.
He says in addition to enforcement, penalties for dumping and burning need to be increased.
In the medium to long term, Minister, because I heard you mention that, is the need for a serious look at the current penalties that the law provides for, because the severity of punishment is a critical deterrent in that regard, and these little fines that are there towards the serious health hazard that is created can't hold.
Both men were speaking at a meeting at the offices of the National Environment and Planning Agency NEPA in Kingston. Jeline Pearson, TVJ News.
We go to a primetime news follow-up now. Days after his guilty verdict, residents and prospects in Thomas relived the gruesome discovery of some of the victims murdered by former businessman Michael McLean back in 2006. As TVJ's Shamela Mitchell reports, while there's relief that justice has been served, family members remain in fear.
12 years after a sextuplet murder in St. Thomas, the wounds remain deep. This section of the Prospect Beach is where 2 of the 6 people were murdered in 2006. The other 4 were murdered elsewhere in the parish. Fisherman Taddy Eldermeyer and his friends were on their way to work in February 2006 when they discovered the first set of bodies.
Yeah, we were passing on the beach, I'm going to see. And when I look, we see a dead man first, when I look, we see another one. And we say, what is this? And we run and shout out, and people come after, police come. And come and look, and whole heap of people gather around, and them say one more around here. And we just go around here and look at them.
The deceased were not from the area. However, based on the gruesome nature of the crime, the residents were shaken up.
Well, the community feel not good, you know. Everybody feel cut up and couldn't sleep and couldn't, you know, worrying about it.
This week, businessman Michael McLean was found guilty for the brutal slaying of 2 women and their 4 children. Patrice McCool's body was found in the Prospect area with her throat slashed, a chop wound to the back of her neck, and several other cut wounds to her back. She was found in heavy bushes near Prospect Beach. Her sons Sean Chin and Lloyd McCool were found on Prospect Beach with their throats slashed and chop wounds to the back of their necks. Sean was 6 years old and Lloyd 3. McLean's girlfriend, Terrian, was found in another district, Needham, also in the parish, with severe burns to most of her body and a chop to the back of her neck. Her daughter, 9-year-old Jessie Ogilvy, was found in thickets at the Prospect Beach with her throat slashed and a chop wound to the neck. Days later, the final victim, 6-year-old Jayad Makul's body was found in St. Mary. She was found off the main road in the parish in bushes, buried in a shallow grave. Our news team visited the relatives of the deceased persons Thursday, but they declined an on-camera interview. They say they still fear for their lives. But we were given this note which read, "It's bittersweet." In the note, the family also criticizes the justice system and that they trusted no one. The convicted killer will be sentenced next month. Shamela Mitchell, TVJ News.
The National Security Minister, Robert Montague, has come out in defense of members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force, who are oftentimes referred to as corrupt. He was speaking at a groundbreaking ceremony for a new police station in St. Mary on Thursday. TVJ's Anthony Lugg reports.
Corrupt cops. It's a label which continues to haunt the Jamaica Constabulary Force in the face of the ongoing crime wave. But it's also a label that the Security Minister, Robert Montague, does not like.
I don't like to talk about rumors. I want to talk about facts. The police force internal inspectorate, based on the cases before them, deduce and conclude that there is a 5% rate of corruption in the Jamaica Constabulary Force. Internally, they say it's 5%. In the show us that it is 3%.
Mr. Montague argues that while police officers must be held accountable, it's equally important for citizens to play their part in the fight against crime.
I don't want anybody to just beat up the police. Every morning you wake up, you cuss police. Every afternoon you cuss police. And when dirty criminal broke your house, you call police. You have to make up your mind. Because when you're in trouble, you call those who you expect to help you. And you're not going to call a criminal. So no call the police criminal. If you have evidence against one or two who give in trouble, there are the necessary mechanisms to report them and get them out of the police force.
He says he's concerned about the impact of the corruption label on the morale of the force.
This argument about our police force is corrupt, dash it way. Yes, you have one or two corrupt people. You have them in a church too. You have them in the army too. You have them in the army too. And you have some doctor when also. So anywhere you go, you will always have one or two bad apples. So I don't want anybody to just get up every day, because if you get up every day and beat up the police and say them no good, then going to be not so good.
Mr. Montague was speaking at the groundbreaking for the new police station in Port Maria. The project will be funded by the National Housing Trust, NHT, at an estimated cost of $60 million. Anthony Lugg, TVJ News.
The police in Clarendon are warning adults against selling youngsters drugs, noting that it is one of the factors contributing to the increasing crime in the parish. Assistant Superintendent in charge of the Community Safety and Security Branch, Owen Brown, was speaking at a Peace Day function at the Alley Primary School on Tuesday. TVJ's Krista Campbell reports.
Crime on the rise in Clarendon, with gangs and drugs of particular concern for the police in the parish. Assistant Superintendent Owen Brown says younger boys are being coerced into criminal activities and by unexpected culprits.
A number of parents in our parish that use marijuana as a means of economic survival. We want them to understand that, it's not only legal to be selling marijuana, to be in possession of certain quantity of marijuana, but the use of marijuana also has an impact on our children. So in no way should we ever introduce marijuana to our 14, 15-year-old boys. It's going to impact the way they are developed. And an educated and uneducated boy is a prime target for our gangs.
At Peace Day celebrations at the Alley Primary School this week, ASP Brown pointed to a direct link between disruptive behavior and criminal activities and teen drug abuse.
Whilst we don't have empirical evidence, but experience has shown us, when we look at most of the boys who are behaving, who are being disruptive in class, who are being disrespectful to their teachers, the underlying factor is that they are using marijuana.
He says police youth clubs are being used as a major intervention in steering youngsters, particularly unattached youth, away from criminal activities.
A number of our boys are involved in the use of marijuana, their overall behavior. So if we can discourage that kind of behavior, we would have at least helped to solve crime, starting right here at the root.
Krista Campbell, TVJ News.
Time now for the responses from our friends on Facebook and Twitter, and Archie is at the smartboard.
Thank you, Doreen. Here's our question this evening. We're asking, what are your views on the Finance Minister's budget presentation? First comment is, it's the best presentation and surprise in 14 years for Finance Minister to exempt taxes from any economy for a fiscal year is A+. Here's our second. Well, I know I heard no new taxes, so I'm happy about that part. I just hope there isn't a catch to it. Here's a third comment. You guys worrying about new taxes. There's nothing else to tax but the air coming in from the sea. Trust and believe if there was something to tax, it would be added to the budget. And here is our final comment for this section. Yes, how you mean, Audley? No new GCT, meaning government can thief, not even pan the stay free. What a happy International Women's Day it turned out to be. Keep your comments coming on Facebook and Twitter. Facebook.com/televisionjamaica and your tweets to @televisionjam. Business news.